Good morning, everyone. Leah Dixon here from Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. I am popping on to do my regular Wednesday morning Facebook Live. And today I'm going to be creating a card using the Wildlife Wonders stamp set. And hopefully I'm talking loud enough. Let me know if I'm not. I've been at home with a pretty bad cough, and so I'm trying to not use my voice too much, but wanted to share this really cool card with you. So I'm going to switch over to my desktop so you can see what we're going to be creating with today. Here we go. So we have 3 different inks. We've got crushed curry, early espresso, pear pizzazz. Sorry, and we actually do have one other. We're also going to use some balmy blue for this one. Sorry, guys. The stamp sets I'm going to be using today are the Wildlife Wonder and the Slim Sayings. And so Slim Sayings is a really beautiful stamp set that we have brand new in our mini catalog. And it's actually meant to go with slimline cards. So if you've never heard of a slimline card, I'll just show you quickly. It's a card that's meant to go into a larger envelope. So these ones are kind of like a standard letter envelope, except that they open on the end. And these are our new slimline envelopes. They have the really nice scallop at the one end, and then they're all designer on the inside, and they're that longer shape. So to create a card for a slimline card, I'm going to show you the dimensions and everything that you need. So that's what we're doing today, is creating a slimline card to fit into one of those fancy envelopes. Just move those out of the way for now. And then I'm also going to be using one of our new masks. This is from a set called Butterflies and Flowers, Layering Decorative Masks. And there's actually 6 different masks in here. So a really cool floral pattern, a nice vine, some larger flowers and leaves, some nice big butterflies, and the intricate design to go on them, as well as some intricate designs to go, like some floral designs. So lots and lots going on with these masks, lots of options. And today I'm going to show you just one using my favorite of the masks, this gorgeous daisy pattern. So I'm just going to set those off to the side as well, because I don't need the rest of those. Perfect. So to create a slimline card, I actually started with an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I cut it down to 8.5 by 7.5 and scored it at 3 3/4. And so that's what has created my slimline base. Oh, sorry, that went really blurry for a second. And that card base fits very nicely into our slimline envelopes. So that is the reason for that size. Now, that extra bit that I trimmed off when I trimmed this down to 7.5 instead of 11 inches long, we're actually going to keep that, and that's where I'm going to do most of my stamping today. I can see a few people have popped on. If you want to say hi so I know who's here, that's awesome. Love to have people watching. So that piece that I had, I actually then went and trimmed it down. It was 3.5 by 8.5. I trimmed it down to 8 1/8 by 3 3/8. And then I also cut a piece of early espresso at 3.5 by 8 1/4. And so that's going to create all of my nice little layers so that these can then also layer onto the front of our slimline card. I'll put all of these measurements into my blog post later today. But basically, we started with a full sheet of paper, and we're using almost all of it to create this card. All right, so I've got this nice long piece here. I'm going to bring in a scrap piece of paper just so that I have something to protect my desktop, because the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start by creating a blended background on this piece of paper, I'm going to create like a nice sky in the background. So I am going to start with my yellow blending brush and my crushed curry. And so I open up my ink, I get some ink onto my blending brush, and then I'm going to start just off on the right hand side, and I'm going to come in and very lightly put in some yellow. And I'm really just doing like a corner of the page, not really doing a ton of it. All right. And I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to put away that blending brush yet, though, because we're going to come back in and use it again in just a moment. I'm going to close up that ink for a moment, though, while I grab my balmy blue and my blue blending brush. So with my blending brushes, I keep one blending brush per color, not per Stampin' Up named color, but per color family. So like one for the reds, one for the oranges, yellows, greens, blues. I even have one for the whites and one for the blacks. So all the colors, all the shades have their own brush, but in total, I think it's only like 10 brushes that I have. And then like any of the reds, it doesn't matter. I'll just use my blending brush. So now I've got my blue, and I'm going to come in and blend my blue from the other end. I don't know if it's my blues because I always choose light ones, or if it's my blending brush, but I always find I have to re-ink my blue more than any other color. And now I'm going to bring my blue close to my yellow, but I'm trying not to overlap it too much because it will turn green if I overlap the two. So as close as possible without really overlapping. And I'm not worrying too much about getting a ton of color down at the bottom of this page because I am going to be stamping some ground in. I'd like to try and get rid of some of that darkness up here though. Okay. There. Okay. So there we have a nice sky. That's probably a little darker than I wanted it, but that's okay. Hi, Laura. So yeah, that's a little bit darker, but I'm going to be stamping over top of it, so I think it'll be fine. We'll be able to kind of wipe that out. All right. So now I can put away my blue, and I'm going to come back again with my yellow, but this time I'm going to bring that mask in over top of my yellow. And I'm going to ink up my blending brush again. Now you could tape this down if you wanted. I'm not going to. I'm just going to turn this so that I've got a bit better of a hold. So I'm just going to hold this in place. Actually, I should probably hold it the way I had it. So I'm holding it over the paper as well. So I'm just going to hold my mask in place and take my inked up blending brush, starting in the top corner. I am going to blend over these circles or flowers in a circular motion. And as I get out towards the edges, I'm just going to blend less. So having it darker in the corner and fading out as we come to the edges. And then I can just lift that to see how that looks. And that's awesome. So it just totally fades out. So now I will have to put that mask somewhere to go wash it because it will have yellow ink on it now. And that is done. So I've just kind of created this beautiful sunny pattern in our like our sunny spot on the card. And just to give that impression of like, you know, a daisy field or whatever. I'm not actually going to be stamping any flowers on here, so that was kind of my way to do that. All right. So now I actually am looking at this, and because I did that dark spot, I kind of just want to lighten it up a bit. And so I'm actually thinking I am going to get my sponge dauber if I can find it. There we go. I'm going to get my sponge dauber. I have a sponge dauber specifically for white ink, and I actually happen to have some white ink that's been sitting out on my desk waiting for a project. And I'm just going to lighten this up a little bit by using my sponge dauber and putting some nice light little clouds here. This one seems to have maybe been used for glue as well, because it's a little bit stiffer than the sponge daubers usually are, and the worst for keeping weird things on my sponge daubers. I'll use them with glue, I'll use them with Wink Stella inks, all sorts of stuff. All right, so I am liking this though, just being able to lighten up that dark spot just a tiny bit. Okay. I could have used a blending brush to do this. However, I just washed my blending brush that I use my white for, and so it's wet, and I don't think that that would have created a very good effect using a wet blending brush. All right, just about done here. So put a bit more up in that top corner. All right, there we go. So it's not a ton, and you'll see that we're going to put in a bunch of other stuff here, so it's not going to matter too much, but that just really lightened that dark spot. All right, so the next thing that we're going to add on here is a sentiment. And actually, I'm going to let that white dry a bit before I add my sentiment. So I'll go ahead and do the bottom of my card. So in our Wildlife Wonder stamp set, we have this kind of like, it's meant to be the shadow of the bear. I am actually going to grab some Pear Pizzazz and ink this up and go along the whole bottom here. And I'm going to do this multiple times and kind of like overlap them and even go up a little bit. So this card today is actually inspired by a card that I saw created by a UK demo, Helen Read. And I just thought it was so beautiful. But I've altered it a bit to make it a slimline card and to add in some of the details in the background. But I just thought the idea of creating your own background was so great. And I love the New Horizon Designer Series papers, but they don't work so well on a slimline card. They are only 6x6. So there we go. All right, so I've created my whole ground there just by stamping that image across and doing some stamping off. And then I'm going to grab the little I don't know, grass stamp, I guess it is. And stamp that on there. And another little one over here. And another little one. So just a little bit of something to kind of cap off the two ends. All right. Now for the focal image of this card, we've got our bear. And so I'm going to actually stamp our bear onto a piece of scrap paper. So I'll just move this out of the way. And actually, I should bring in something to stamp on. And I love all of the animals in our Wildlife Wonder stamp set. Oh, good morning, Noelle. These animals are so easy to use because all of the shading, all of the interest to them, all the detail is right in the stamp. So it's literally ink stamp done. You can add some extra color if you want, but it's actually not necessary. And yeah, all the hard work is done for you in the stamp itself. So just ink it up, press it down, and voila, you have an absolutely gorgeous animal all created. There's the bear, the owl, and the wolf in this set, and they all stamp that easily. Pick a color and go. So it's really, really nice that way. Now, sorry. I have been coloring mine in though with dark crumb cake. I find that it just adds a little bit of extra darkness to them. I just color over them like a single layer everywhere. I don't even try and shade with my blends or anything because the shading's already been done for me. I'm just taking away that whiteness in the background. And now you could also achieve this by stamping onto a piece of crumb cake or a piece of cinnamon cider instead of coloring them in afterwards. And stamping with like early espresso or black right onto a piece of colored cardstock, and then you'd get that color in the background as well. So here we go. There. I created a card for a swap that I was in doing this, and I blew through an entire dark crumb cake. I colored so many bears. All right, so with that guy stamped and colored in, oh, sorry, before I cut him out, just because we are going to be putting him onto a colorful background, not a white background, I'm going to do a quick whip around with my pool party, my dark pool party blend. And this is just so that if I'm not very, very exact as I'm doing my fussy cutting, I'm not going to have that stark white edge. Now, you could also fussy cut and then add this afterwards. But there we go. So just a little bit of an edge around him so that I don't have a stark white edge when I go and put him down. Now you're going to notice that I really am trying to take off almost all, like I'm not leaving a big border around him like I often do when I cut things out. I am cutting quite close, but I just wanted that little bit of blue there in case, as I'm trying to like catch some of these loose hairs on him and stuff, that I don't get close enough. So I'll just cut that off so I've got a scrap for something else. There we go. And here we go. Oh yeah, it's a great one. It's a nice tip as well, Noelle, when you're doing, like if you're stamping a snowman onto a white background, to just do a quick whip around with the pool party. And for that, I would actually maybe use the light pool party. It doesn't add too much, especially if you're using the light one, in terms of like a visual distraction. But what it does is it helps like your snowman pop out when it's a white on white image, right? I know there's that black line there, but it can still feel like it's just very two-dimensional and fading into the background. And so that little pool party line around him can help him really stand out. All right, just a little bit more. So he's a pretty easy fussy cut. I don't get too fussy around all the little things around him. Okay, move all those scraps out of the way. So you can see that I did leave the slightest border, but it's not crazy and it's not stark white. There we go. So now this little guy is going to go onto our card, and I'm going to put him over here right around where my yellow and my blue meet. That way if I did accidentally overlap and get some green going on, that's going to hide that. What I also want to do though before I put him down is make sure I've left enough space for my sentiment. And I guess I can put my sentiment up higher. So let's make sure that that white is dry. No, it's not. Good thing I checked. Okay, let's just grab another scrap paper. And I'm just going to dry this off. And I'm going to hope for the best. I might end up putting my happy birthday on a label and attaching it. We'll see what happens when I stamp across that. Okay, so I'm going to grab my early espresso ink and my happy birthday sentiment from my Slim Zanes. And I'm going to ink that up. We'll see what happens. So I do want this kind of up higher. There we go. And okay, excellent. It actually worked. Okay, so there we have our sentiment added on there. Now I can come in and add my bear, and I'm going to pop him in with dimensionals. So let's grab some of those. And I put one down in that front leg, his head, his back, and down by his back legs. There we go. Peel those off. Pop that on. And now before I do anything else, I should probably attach all these layers together. So I am going to grab a liquid glue. And I'm just going to put this onto that early espresso layer that I had created. And then we're going to put that early espresso layer onto our slimline card base. All right. There we go. Okay. Grab that card base. And so this card is nearly done. The last thing I'm going to do is add a little embellishment. And on such a beautiful sunshiny day with this bear out to play, I think we need to add some butterflies. And we've got those gorgeous brushed brass butterflies. So now do be careful. I learned that although these are stuck to their background, if you drop them, they will fall off of their backing. I had butterflies all over the carpet in my office. It was really horrible. I managed to rescue them all, but I've been picking off like carpet fibers off the back of them as I've been using them. So yeah, don't drop this sheet of butterflies. They will just jump right off the page. There we go. And another butterfly there. All right. So with those guys added, that is our finished card. And so just use the Wildlife Wonder stamp set. Oh, I know, Christina, doesn't work get in the way of everything. So this is the Wildlife Wonder stamp set with the slimline sayings and our brushed brass butterflies and the butterflies and flowers decorative mask to create this beautiful slimline card that we can then pop into one of our slimline envelopes. So it's kind of nice sometimes to create something a little bit different instead of our standard card size. And this one's a great size as well if you're sending like, birthday money or something to that hard to buy for person teen in your life. And yeah, so that is my card. So I did put my Linktree link into the description of this video, but I have a Wildlife Wonder card class coming up in February, and I believe the deadline to register for that is January 30th. So if you're interested, check out my Linktree, check out that class. I have some other classes going on, and it's the last few days to sign up for like my Abstract Beauty Stamp Camp and all of that. So check it all out. And I hope you guys have a great Wednesday. I will be back live on Sunday morning for my Celebration Sunday. And I'm actually going to be featuring the Catching Butterflies stamp set, I believe, this Sunday. So hopefully you can join me for that. Bye, everyone.